President Trump today signaling he's ready to turn up the pressure on Russia over the war in Ukraine.
Are you ready to move to the second phase of sanctions against Russia or punishing Putin?
Let's bring in Andrew Breen, senior fellow at the National Security Institute and former senior intelligence official. A big deal there. Are you ready to move to the second stage of sanctions against Russia? The president, yeah, I am. What do you think that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I think this isn't just about President Trump. Obviously, he is pushing for these secondary sanctions. I think it's quite clear that the Trump administration has determined and understood that Vladimir Putin is not responding to peaceful overtures, to diplomatic standard overtures. And so there has been a shortage, a massive shortfall in throwing any wrenches in the Russian hybrid war machine that targets Ukrainian civilians. And that goes all the way back until 24 February 2022, when the Biden administration and none of the European allies really put sanctions with teeth in order. And so I think that this is a really important thing, and it's got to be a time for unity across the entire Western world, and people have to stop buying Russian energy.
There is a growing call right now, based on that point, to put the pressure on Russia's allies, mainly China and India. Let's listen to the Republican from Florida, Brian Mast.
We have to deal with those that are on the outside that are still allowing, because of their relationships, their cooperation, Russia to continue this war. And it really puts to a fine point that because of cooperation, Russia, China, India, North Korea are essentially at war with Ukraine, Europe, the United States of America because of those cooperations.
We just saw those leaders, Russia, China, India, North Korea, all meet this week. Do you agree that there needs to be sanctions on all four of those countries who are really, they are fueling this war machine?
Well, I think that I kind of made that clear earlier, that that's been my assessment going back until 2022. The major allies said that they had this massive sanctions package. And I believe those of us who've been on the ground in Ukraine and those of us who really support the Ukrainian fight for freedom have known that the Russian hybrid war machine has been targeting not only Ukrainian civilians, but even this week in eastern Germany, Russian drones flew over eastern German territory to keep an eye on how the Germans are sending supplies to Ukrainian front lines. That's a real invasion of privacy and, frankly, sovereignty that I think needs to be taken into account. And so I think what we are seeing is really a changing constellation in the world order, right? Vladimir Putin is trying to step up and lead a very authoritarian group of dictatorships that includes Iran, North Korea, and the People's Republic of China under Xi and the communists, probably as the hardcore participants. And then there's a larger satellite that includes Brazil and India and kind of what used to be called the BRICS. And that little cluster, it's a big cluster, is really a massive tectonic shift in geopolitical standing. So it's not just U.S. Russia is in the Cold War of the first Cold War. This is actually a very hybrid active conflict that varies between Cold War and active war on various fronts. So I think that the American people are probably starting to wake up to where the Europeans, and I live in London in the UK, where we've been for quite a long time. Russia has been actively at war with Ukraine and Western Europe. And now I think that President Trump is actually pushing forward with sanctions that could put some wrenches and perhaps bring Vladimir Putin to the negotiating table. But I think it's really important that there is complete Western unity on these sanctions packages and that people don't skirt them and buy oil.
And Andrew, though, we're talking about China and India. We depend on these countries for our economy. What can we expect those countries? How can we expect them to retaliate against us?
Well, I don't know that there should be retaliation. And you say us. I live in the United Kingdom. I'm in America. I live and I'm a UK resident where this is America's longest, most trusted alliance economically, militarily, diplomatically since 200 years. So I think, and I think it's really important that people understand that Europe has been facing a very active hybrid war from the Russian military, Russian intelligence, using cyber criminal groups to hack the West. And I think it's a proximity issue. The United States is it's buffered. When we live in the United States, we have an Atlantic Ocean and a Pacific Ocean. But this has been a low grade, very hot hybrid fight that Russia has been launching against the West. And now you see these you think of them as neutral territory, right? What's India going to do? How will they react? Venezuela, probably not going to align with the Western democracies and shift the other way. But I think we are really in a very chaotic, dangerous moment in geopolitics. And I think also it's only makes sense that all of the nations of the world that align around free world values, individual human rights, fair capital markets, and good business practices, those types of things that we love in the United States and Western Europe, we've got to stay united, because the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, the North Koreans are going to do everything they can to divide us.
Well, we shall see what this second round of sanctions will be by the president. We have Vladimir Zelensky, Ukraine's president, saying that he wants to see more sanctions on Russian oil and gas as well. So we shall follow it all the chaos, as you put it. Andrew Breen, senior fellow at the National Security Institute, thank you.
Thanks for having me. Really important topic tonight.
Of course.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.